meeting about what should the reporters go out and do. I want to send all the reporters out, as well as some of the print reporters if they want to go out. In fact, I'm going to just tell them to go out. I want Don Salazar and Kit Daniels and Kurt Nimmo to go out today and report on different Cinco de Mayo events. And my issue is, if there was a Mayflower Day, let's say hypothetically, and only white people were allowed at it, and if they called it the race, if there was a Mayflower Day called the race in English, I would send my crew out right now. If the Ku Klux Klan ever comes to Austin, Texas, we've done this literally more than 15 times. I don't know, it's more than 15. But next time the Klan comes, we will send our reporters out to show what they're doing and to show they have the First Amendment right to do what they do, but that they are just a total joke. And then we'll also show their leaders and point out that usually they're feds meant to create racial division. Same thing. I want my reporters to go out to Cinco de Mayo and ask people about, what do you think of Mecha and La Raza? Mecha says, in their creed in Spanish, that it is for the supremacy of the God race. And it translates to the holy God race of Chicanos. Look it up. Now, La Raza, their creed is, for those in the race, everything. For those outside the race, nothing. That is the official, sponsored by the Fortune 500, Miller Beer, Ford, GM, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. For those in the race, everything. For those outside the race, nothing. I'm going to say that again. For those in the race, everything. For those outside the race, nothing. So I want Sergeant Biggs, Staff Sergeant Biggs, and I want Jakari Jackson, and I want whoever's not hosting the news tonight, I want everybody to go out and say, what do you think of the official La Raza? That's the biggest Hispanic group in the country next to LULAC, and LULAC's pretty much the same. And say, why does the system want to make Hispanics totally racial and anti-black or white? And just call it out and say, do you know the Ford Foundation? I mean, I've done this myself probably 10 times over the years. The Ford Foundation for 50 years has been funding this liberation theology so that Americans don't basically merge together under an American culture, a Bill of Rights, Constitution, Declaration of Independence. We've now gotten to the point where the American flag is so offensive in Phoenix and so offensive in San Francisco and so offensive in Garland, Texas, that illegals have gone and pulled down American flags from gas stations and from post offices and from federal buildings, and no one stops them. The American flag is so offensive. And look, I know the American flag has been made to symbolize global empire and corruption, but I mean, it can also symbolize Second Amendment, private property rights, the good things about it that made America great. America's never been perfect, but compared to other countries, folks, go visit them. A lot less freedom. Now, we've become unfree on all the major economic, religious, you name it, indexes. We used to be number one. We're way down the list. Number 20, 30, you name it, 40, 60, education, you name it. Highest in cancer, highest in obesity, highest in low IQs. We've reversed our position as number one in the 1950s and 40s and 30s and before that. Americans really were exceptional. We really were exceptionally evil and exceptionally good. We were very exceptional people. I don't care what color you were. We came here through adversity. This was a swashbuckling, freebooting, wild nation. And when humans are faced adversity, that makes men. Prosperity makes monsters. Our prosperity, though, made us monsters. So now we're going into a decadent cycle. And we're going to come back and play the clips of the, and again, most Hispanics I know are not anti-America, anti-white, anti-black. This is something being force-fed by the prostitute collaborative media with the globalist. This is something being sold because they want us all divided, or the globalists cannot get what they want through. Wells Fargo, again, orders American flags removed from inside their branches. That's mainstream news, folks. I mean, this is the total overwrite where they say American culture is not allowed because vestigially what it stands for, but every other thing, every other culture can, and then it's not even Hispanic culture. Hispanic culture is pro-family, pro-right to self-defense, pro-male role models. It's the opposite of the fake globalist liberal culture that's not even liberal that they're selling. I mean, why would anyone want to adopt the New World Order culture? Well, they just say, MTV says what black culture is. All these Hispanic channels say what it is to be Hispanic. And they're telling you, you have no right to be an American. You have no right. It's criminal. Imagine living in a country where they teach 2 + 2 = 5 and where public school children as young as 10 are taken and given abortions in many states without parental consent and given inoculations without parental consent. Totally illegal. Imagine living in a country where they lie to you every year in August and tell you it's the law that your kids have got to take all the shots when there is no law. Imagine living in a country where our government with NATO overthrows an elected government, installs it, and Obama came out last Friday and called it a duly elected government. In fact, will you guys find that clip? It was over the weekend. I forgot about it. I saw the clip in Paul Watson's report. Duly elected. Regardless, let's say you hate Russians, hate Putin, you believe they're the devil, the Antichrist. That government in Ukraine is not elected. That's the level of crazy town. Obama calls coup government in Kiev duly elected. We have the 23-second clip right there. I mean, this is the insanity of this, where all over the country, gangs basically beat up kids that wear American flags. And if you follow what happened in San Francisco and other areas, it was Hispanic kids that wanted to have the American flag. By the way, Hispanics in almost every state under the age of about 10, last time I saw the numbers, are the majority. Why don't you just want to inherit the Second Amendment and private property? Well, you do. Actually, most Hispanics do. So they wear the American flag, and then the folks that have got the Mexico tattoos all over them and the Mexican license plates and the Mexican stickers everywhere, they're very nationalistic, and it's like a football team. And they're like, listen, you're not going to wear that American flag. So it becomes almost a gang issue. That if you want to identify as an American... See, I used to really get annoyed by the American flag because I knew what it really symbolized, but I knew now it symbolized kind of fascism. But then I understood, instead of not having the American flag, I'm going to take the American flag back. I'm going to use it to promote the ideas of liberty that it was originally formed for and never truly achieved, but at least tried. Better than any other country it has, other than, say, Switzerland. And so we're retaking the American flag. We're using the American flag for what it was meant to be used for. But if we will allow the globalists and the Ford Foundation and the Carnegie Endowment and the different globalist think tanks, they're not left-wing, they call themselves left-wing, that's cover, these fascist think tanks, if we'll let them ban the Bible, ban the American flag, but judges say, I don't want to hear about the Constitution in my courtroom, this is a revolution against our rights. Hey, I'm going to tell you something right now. If Mexico had a better Constitution and Bill of Rights, if Mexico had better private property rules, if Mexico was a freer country, I would live in Mexico. It's not that I don't want brown people around me. It's that I don't want people from a collapsed third world country coming here, brainwashed that America belongs to them and they deserve welfare, and for their race everything, those outside the race nothing. If this racism catches on, they've done studies where it's 11-to-1 pro-socialist rhetoric on Spanish television and print media here in the U.S. I mean, it's anti-gun, it's anti-family, it's anti-father. It's anti-Hispanic culture that is Spanish culture. It is absolutely to destroy Hispanics and everybody else along with them. Just like the Gardasil shots. In fact, I want one of my reporters to go out with the article that all girls 11 years old in Mexico are to be forced. They actually have a tyrannical law in Mexico, not here. They lie and say it's the law here. Rick Perry did. In Mexico, they have a law in place for 3 years to give every girl in Mexico a Gardasil shot. I want maybe Jakari Jackson to ask that question, or Don Salazar. Hey, why doesn't Mecha, those that say... And La Raza, for those inside the race, everything, for those outside the race, nothing. Why don't they, this is very important, why don't they lobby against giving the Gardasil shot, which sterilizes and destroys the ovaries and causes autoimmune disorders? And we knew 8 years ago when it got approved, that was what it was being approved for. It had to have governmental involvement for waivers just to get approved because it was so deadly. I mean, I thought you're for your race because I'm in the human race. That's who I'm for. That's why I don't want you sterilized. But see, the folks telling you about race all day, they're not going to tell you that you're being aborted, you're being sterilized. See, so I want to ask those questions. See, for those inside the race, everything. For those outside the race, nothing. But see, I see it as the human race, not as the Hispanic race.
We're on the march.